for Charlie George, who can hit them. Oh, look we go! Charlie George!
Discussing Arsenal football. This is Brian's review show.
Henry! What a goal! Inspiration for Arsenal from Thierry Henry.
And you're very welcome indeed to Brian's review show covering Arsenal football, and this is the very first episode, and we are previewing the game at the weekend against Southampton. And first of all, to introduce myself, I'm a big Arsenal fan, have been for over 20 years, and this is a podcast that'll be following the ups and downs, the fortunes and highs and lows of Arsenal football. And this program will be coming out twice a week, depending on when the games take place. There'll be one earlier in the week and another one then later in the week. So just keep an eye out for updates on when those podcast episodes will be available. You can get the program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, Deezer, and also Acast, which is who the provider of the program is from. Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and also on YouTube on our YouTube channel, Brian's Review Show. So let's get stuck into this, and we're playing Southampton on Saturday, which it'll be a 3 o'clock kickoff at St Mary's Stadium. Now, for Irish fans, it'll be on Premier Sports 2 television, the channel there, so just keep an eye out for that. But it's a huge game from an Arsenal perspective. Very poor against Brighton last week. Martin Odegaard did get a consolation goal for us, but I think on the grand scheme of things, Brighton were by far the better team. And this game against Southampton is huge. Now, Southampton's current position in the table is in 14th, and they're on 36 points with a minus difference of 15. Then from an Arsenal perspective, we're, as we know, on 54 points in 5th place after 30 games. But the table, we're kind of more focused on, of course, achieving top 4, and Tottenham Hotspur are in action against Brighton at the weekend, who defeated us. So we're very much hoping that Brighton do us a favour at the weekend as well. Tottenham's game against Brighton is at 12:30 on Saturday, so there'll be an early kickoff. So we'll know by the time Arsenal are in action against Southampton how things will proceed. So let's hope that Brighton can do us a fucking favour, basically, because we need 3 points massively against Southampton to continue the run of form that we had before the Crystal Palace and Brighton games. But I think Arsenal's performance, I think teams are finding out about Lacazette. I think tactically Arteta needs to tweak something maybe. I think Martinelli deserves a chance in that number 9 role. I think it's got to be tried. Maybe Pepe needs to play more action. He's a £72 million transfer fee attached to this player. He's got to get a chance, surely, from the start. He showed it in the AFCON that there is a talented player there. We've seen it at times from an Arsenal perspective. You know, think of the performances against Wolves this season. Some great goals he got. So I think he showed a positive impact. You can think back to games even last season against Sheffield United, going back a long time ago, and even the FA Cup final against Chelsea. There has been times when Pepe has been a top player, and we need to see that form between now and the end of the season, because Arsenal need him badly. Goals is our problem at the moment. We scored 1 goal in the last 2 games. It's a serious issue that Arsenal need to solve and to fix, and to get momentum going again, because we need it for the last couple of games. Now, if you go back to Arsenal's recent run of form, we defeated Leicester 2-0, which is a fantastic result, but since then our form is, in terms of goals wise, has dipped slightly, very much worryingly. Like, we scored 1 goal in the rest of March after that, because the Leicester game was on the 13th of March, and then from there on, for the rest of March we scored 1 goal. That was the Bukayo Saka goal at Phillip Park, and we didn't score any goal against Liverpool at the Emirates. We didn't score any goal against Crystal Palace after that. And there was, of course, an international break in between that, as we know. Then Martin Odegaard got a very late goal against Brighton. We had chances against Brighton. Listen, there's no 2 ways about it. When you look back at that game, Odegaard's miss, Smith Rowe's miss in the second half. We adore these players. We love these players. They've saved us so many times this season. But it's just an issue. Lacazette had a couple of half chances as well. Um, it's really worrying. Odegaard had a great chance against Crystal Palace as well. I'm not giving up on Odegaard. I think he's a fantastic footballer. Really a big fan of him. But I just think teams have kind of found him out. And the injuries to Thomas Partey and to Kieran Tierney, they're big losses. Listen, there's no two ways about it. When you take Tierney out of the team, first of all, it disrupted our whole system against Crystal Palace, and then taking Partey out of that, then is just such a fucking big loss, really. To be honest, it's just they're so hard to replace those players. Partey was on great form as well. Tierney, although some people say he wasn't in his best form, he wasn't attacking as much as he was last season. Defensively, he looked very solid. He saved us a couple of times, and the really frustrating thing with Tierney is that he was playing two 90-minute games for Scotland, two friendly games as well, and could Steve Clarke, the Scotland manager, could he have decided not to play Tierney for that amount of minutes? I don't know. It may have rumours are going around that the injury was there for a while and Arsenal knew about it. So that's a problem with Tierney. Listen, I love Tierney. He's another player I've always liked since he's come into Arsenal. I love his attitude. I love the way he plays. But injury has been a problem since he's come to Arsenal. And this is an issue that Arsenal may have to try and solve in the summer. I think striking is definitely a problem. Look, to be frank, if you were to ask me if I was the Arsenal boss now, what would I do? I would drop Lacazette for the game, put him on the bench, bring him on second half. We need him. I think give Eddie Nketiah or Martinelli that number 9 shirt up front, that role, I should say. Give them that chance. Nketiah, there's got to be. Like he hit the bar against Crystal Palace and he hit the side net, I think, against Brighton as well. So, there's Eddie Nketiah he's a strange player, really. He can be very frustrating sometimes. But there's got to be a good player in there. I was over myself at the Brentford game back, I think it was in maybe February 19th or something like that. And, Saka and Smith Rowe were just full of life that day. Played some absolutely sensational champagne football that day, Arsenal. They were all over Brentford. Brentford could not deal with Arsenal's pace, and we need that back again. I know we had Tierney and Partey that day, but Xhaka has to come back into midfield. The left back position, maybe go 3 at the back. I'd trust Rob Holding to do a job. Tomiyasu, I think, is close to coming back with us as well, so we need him possibly in the squad as well. Send Cedric out to the left side. Cedric has played there before. You might recall just the game against Southampton last season. It's very fresh in my mind because I remember Cedric played a left back then and played a fantastic match that night. Pepe got a great goal that night, as I remember as well. So Arsenal need something just to get the mojo going again, I think. Yeah, that game last season, Pepe got the first goal. I remember it was an individual brilliance from Pepe. It came in from the side and hit into the I think it was his right foot. It was a splendid goal. And Saka and Lacazette also scored in that game as well. They responded well, Arsenal. That was the key in that game against Southampton last season at St Mary's Stadium. They went behind I think it was Armstrong that scored early in that game, and then Arsenal came back strong then into that game. Pepe got a really crucial goal, and we got 3 massive points at that time, which we needed just to keep the momentum going. That was from last season. And this season when we faced Southampton, we had a pretty good win. We bet them 3-0 in the league. So to continue that confidence, we need to show a performance like that. Yeah, Lacazette, Odegaard, and Gabriel got the goals that time as well. So we could definitely do with that happening again. I definitely take a 3-0 victory and a Lacazette, Odegaard, and Gabriel goal. There's no two ways about it. It would it would greatly help us. But if you look at Arsenal's fixtures coming in, we have Southampton on the 16th of April, which is at 3 o'clock, as we know, that's Saturday. A couple of days after that, the 20th of April, on a Wednesday night, we're facing Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. Now, Chelsea will be hurting after being knocked out of the Champions League to Real Madrid, which was an absolutely cracking game, mind you. But if you recall the game last season, we somehow defeated Chelsea 1-0 at Stamford Bridge. So I would certainly take that again. That's at 7:45. It's a London derby. That anything can happen, London derby. But Chelsea would be fancied for that game. We have a massive game, a huge game at 12:30. On the following Saturday, the 20th of April, you have Manchester United. So that's a massive game. United would be looking to get, they need something. Their season's kind of done at this stage. All they're fighting for is Europe and a high spot and a bit of pride in the league. And Arsenal should be trying to go gung ho and beat those Manchester fuckers really at the end of the day, just to get them the 3 points, which would be crucial. They defeated us 3-2 earlier in the season, so we need to get revenge on them big time. West Ham Arsenal is on the 1st of May then, and that's at the London Stadium. Then we have Leeds after that on the 8th of May, and then big game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Tottenham Hotspur against Arsenal. That's at the 12th of May, and then we have Newcastle then on the 16th of May, and then the season concludes then on the 22nd of May against Everton. So we have a lot of big games coming up, and we're 3 points behind Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. If you look at the table, and Tottenham's games are. We've one game more than Tottenham. Yes, we do absolutely, which is it is an advantage to a point. But like Tottenham's running, they've Brentford, they've Leicester, they've Liverpool, they've us. Then after that, then they've Burnley, and then they have Norwich City. So Harry Kane and Son, they're in serious form at the moment. I know Matt Doherty, who had been playing well for Tottenham recently, was injured, and of course, from an Irish person's perspective, we'd be keeping a close eye on Matt Doherty, who plays for the Republic of Ireland. So that's a concern from an Irish perspective, but from a Tottenham perspective, they would be missing Matt Doherty, who was in form, no doubt about it. But yeah, they've Son, they've Kane. Let's be honest, they looked pretty devastating against Aston Villa, where they won 4-0. Tottenham, like, we'll be going on to that game, of course, down the line, but like Tottenham have one advantage over us is that they have goal scorers and pace in that team. They're devastating on the counter. Like, that's how they defeated Manchester City, and they'll be looking to use that as their strength going into the final games of the season. So Tottenham will be strong. There's no doubt about it going into the last games of the season. Like, coming back to Arsenal again and their approach to the last couple of games, I noticed the game against Crystal Palace that Conor Gallagher, who's been a fantastic player for Crystal Palace, he was targeting Perry a good bit of the game, and Perry couldn't have the influence that he normally would have in the game. And I think also Odegaard his influence in the game was also limited too, because teams have started to figure us out. What was working so well back in February or January, well, particularly in February, because January wasn't the greatest month for us, but in February in particular, when it was working well, teams didn't know how to deal with us. We were just playing serious champagne football, and then all of a sudden this change in momentum, and teams are starting to figure us out. And I think if you go back to the Liverpool game back in March, we played brilliant football. Like, for the first hour, I've chatted to a couple of Liverpool fans since, and they were very much full of praise of how Arsenal approached the game. But then Liverpool, they're such a serious team that they found a weakness, and that goal from I think it was Jota, and then Firmino got the second goal then. But Jota, who seems to have a very annoying habit of scoring against us, but he showed that bit of class. And the top teams like Liverpool and Manchester City and Chelsea as well, when they're at their best, they will punish you, and even if you make the smallest mistakes. So that's what we have to be wary of for sure. I come back to the problem. Like, goals is the big issue. Like, if you take our top goal scorers for the season so far, Bukayo Saka and Emil Smith Rowe are our two best goal scorers. They have 9 goals each, and Martin Odegaard is after that with 6. Lacazette has 5, and Martinelli has 5. So, like, that's and Aubameyang has 4 goals for us this season. Like, although he's not an Arsenal player anymore, as we know, he's at Barcelona now, and he's his own troubles with as good a form as he's in, and he's been brilliant form for Barcelona. There's no question about it. But they've been, like, Frankfurt have turned them upside down in the Europa Conference League, so it's not all plain sailing either. So, but anyway, focus on Arsenal. Goals. Thomas Partey has 2 goals for us. Gabriel has 3 goals for us. So we haven't got enough from our strikers. Goals are a big problem for Arsenal at the minute, and this is something that we need to fix and to resolve as best we can between now and the end of the season. See, well, Lacazette, in the recent games, he hasn't been doing as well because he's been marked pretty well. But like before that, if you go back to the Wolves game or the Brentford game I was talking about, he had so many assists. That was the strength of Lacazette's game. And if you go look at the stats once again, the stats don't lie. He had 7 assists for the season. Lacazette, which is phenomenal. Saka has 5, and second. That's Lacazette's strength, like. But when you take he wins the ball high up the field and distributes the ball to the likes of Smith Rowe or Saka on the wings or Odegaard. That was working before, but teams have caught on to us in that line and they've started to block that passage. So we need to do something different, whether it's Eddie Nketiah, give him a chance of that role for starting the game, or maybe it's Gabriel Martinelli that deserves that chance and put Saka and Smith Rowe out the wings, or maybe try Pepe out the wing as well, along with Martinelli in the centre. Because we got to try something different that teams will not anticipate, because they are figuring out Lacazette, and this is something that we need to fix between now and the end of the season, because we're not Lacazette is not scoring goals for us. He's done a lot of great work before, but the last couple of games he's not been at his best, and maybe he just needs a rest. Like if you had another striker that was more prevalent in front of goal than Lacazette is at the minute, then Lacazette wouldn't be starting. Listen, there's no two ways about it. If we had another striker that was scoring more goals, Lacazette would not be starting. There's no question about it. He'd be coming off the bench if there was another striker that was scoring more goals. Whether Pepe is the man to do that, we'll have to wait and see. I think Pepe has a big role to play for sure between now and the end of the season. Like there is a good player in Pepe. Like Pepe, 2 examples of games that I can think of recently. The game against Wolves and Pepe came off the bench. Pepe showed what he can do at his best. He came on, he scored a brilliant goal. He assisted a goal, I think, in that game as well. Showed a huge influence when he came off the bench. But if you look then, again, I think it was the game against Aston Villa that springs to mind. He came off the bench in that game. And, like, maybe it's the 2 different scenarios, because we were trying to hold on to a very narrow lead against Aston Villa, whereas against Wolves, he was very much trying to get rid of the deficit that Wolves provided when we were 1 goal down. That was his role. So Pepe, at times in an Arsenal jersey, has shown there is talent there. Listen, I've seen Pepe up close as well twice. Um, I've seen him most recently, as I said, against Brentford, but I've seen him a couple of years ago before against I think it was Brighton. We lost 2-1 against Brighton. But I was still very impressed with Pepe that night. Um, Pepe is pace wise, that's his game. He's very, very quick, can be intelligent on the ball. When he's at his best, he does have a role to play in this team. There's no 2 ways about it. I just think maybe the manager maybe doesn't fully trust him, or there's something there that he doesn't back him enough. Um, but I can't emphasize enough the point. We need Pep between now and the end of the season. We need him to be banging in assists, scoring goals. Lacazette still has a role to play. There's no doubt about it. But we need change up front, and I think Martinelli or Nketiah in that number 9 role maybe is the thing. Maybe 3 at the back. Maybe push. We need Tavares also. Tavares, I don't know what his confidence is like at the moment, because he was dropped altogether from the Brighton game, and he came off early against Crystal Palace as well after an atrocious first half. And you'd rather put Xhaka away from midfield and stick Lokonga in midfield instead of having Tavares at left back. I think maybe Tavares' game maybe is having up, going forward more. I think that was when he was at his best earlier in the season, when there was talks. Arsenal fans were even talking about whether Tavares possibly maybe should be the starter ahead of Tierney. I think Tavares' confidence really started to decline slightly when the game against Liverpool at Anfield. He just was just such a nerve wracking occasion. You can't blame a player, because going to Anfield at that, no matter how experienced you are, is so difficult. And he unfortunately was shown that day that it was a very hard place to go to. And you lose 4-0 as well at the time, and that was back in December, I think it was. It just showed that we were in big trouble. But Arteta didn't drop him straight away. He started the game after that against Newcastle. He was starting that game. And the cup game against Forest didn't help his confidence either. And I just don't know what his confidence is like at the moment, whether it's Arteta doesn't trust him or he's not quite at that level yet. There's something not right there with Tavares, because Tavares is our backup left back and he's got to be starting surely if he's our backup left back. But if Tomiyasu comes back, Cedric might go out to the left back position because he has played there before. It's not ideal, but I'd rather have Xhaka in the centre of midfield because that's where we need him. And it showed against Brighton too that we needed him there in midfield because the space that was left out the left side, because Xhaka kind of slotted back into the midfield role at times and left space then for Brighton to score the first goal at Emirates last week. So this is an issue that Arsenal need to try and to get the balance right. Like that Trossard goal, like it was a great finish. There's no question about it. From a defensive point of view, would that goal have gone in with Tierney there? I'm not sure. I don't think it would, because that space out the left side would not have been given to Brighton. Now, Southampton are an interesting team. Ralph Hasenhüttl is a top coach, and the game against Chelsea last week. Listen, it was Chelsea were hurting after the Real Madrid game last week, so they just turned up at St Mary's and just destroyed Southampton 6-0 and quite comfortably. Southampton are they can like they're very I think they're very much a team. I was listening to another podcast during the week that I regularly listen to, and they were saying that Southampton are a team that kind of very much in your face, and when that plan doesn't work, the plan seems to disintegrate, and that's where the likes of Leicester famously won 9-0 there a couple of years ago. Um, that's where it happens. So that's what Arsenal need to get into the Southampton players' face if they want to win this game, because this is a massive game for Arsenal. They have to get 3 points. There's no two ways about it. Che Adams and James Ward-Prowse are, of course, James Ward-Prowse is a phenomenal player. Some of the goals he scored, I think the goal against Leeds most recently was an absolute cracking free kick that he scored, and he missed the Euro squad as well for England. So Ward-Prowse is an absolute brilliant player and a fantastic free taker and a great visionary player on the ball, and he'll be a huge threat for Southampton. There's no two ways about it. Che Adams can score goals too. He's got 7 goals this season, so there's got to be there's a lot of danger there in that Southampton side. And Adam Armstrong too is another guy that's very dangerous, along with Nathan Redmond. So there's some top players Southampton. This will not be an easy game. Going to St Mary's to try and get a win. We did it the last time. We won 3-1 when Pepe scored and Saka and Lacazette scored. But remember, um, that game there's a full house this time at St Mary's, so it'll be a very intimidating atmosphere, and teams have fallen there before, so it's going to be a tough game on Saturday at 3 o'clock at St Mary's. But it's a game that Arsenal have got to win and got to show a bit of steel and composure. Even if you look at the defence, like Gabriel has been such a power horse for Arsenal this season, but even his game has dropped slightly. Particularly against Palace and Brighton, I think it's just maybe it's a concentration thing or something. I'm not quite sure. It's just there's something not quite. I think it's between teams figuring out Arsenal, but also there's a lot of fatigue maybe there in terms of games played and such. But we have no European football this year, so the constant concentration since we got knocked out of the FA Cup has been the league. So Arsenal need to prioritise that the league is. This is crucial. So important we beat Southampton at the weekend to get 3 points. Have to get 3 points. We have to hope that Brighton can get a result against Tottenham, and then we have Chelsea coming next after that. So there's a lot of big games coming that are left for Arsenal. We have 8 games left this season between now and the 22nd of May. So it's a lot of football to be played and a lot of ups and downs. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. West Ham are on a high now after getting through to the Europa League semi-final tonight. So they will be full of confidence in Europe as well. So we have to play them too as well. So there'll be a lot of games that it's very hard to predict to know exactly what's going to happen. So listen, fingers crossed that Arsenal, the Gunners, can get the job done and get back into Europe. The key thing is that Arsenal do not drop down to 8th place again. We finished in 8th in the last 2 seasons. This cannot happen. We cannot allow this. We were in a position we were so close to 4th. We're still very close to 4th, but those defeats to Brighton and to Crystal Palace were so damaging to our confidence and to morale and to the fans' confidence as well, for sure, as well as the team's confidence and the management's confidence. It has been tested, But this is a part of professional football. They have to bounce back once again. And this game at St. Mary's is a big game. If we get 3 points, we're on 53 points going into the Chelsea game during the week. If we can get some result at Stamford Bridge, it would be fantastic. We have to just hope that we can catch Chelsea on a bad day. So, right, I'm going to end the podcast for this episode. This is episode 1 of the Brian Review Show, focusing on Arsenal football. We'll have a programme next week to discuss and review the game against Southampton at the week, and that'll be coming out on Monday, so just keep an eye out for that, and let's hope Arsenal can get 3 points. All right, Gunners, keep the faith, and bye for now.
Oh, Charlie George, you can hit him. Oh, Charlie George!
Discussing Arsenal football. This is Brian's Review Show.
Henry! What a goal! Inspiration for Arsenal from Thierry Henry.